Because we are going to be talking the Polar Express, the 2004 animated movie. Nick, what is the synopsis for this?
On Christmas Eve, a young boy embarks on a magical adventure to the North Pole on the Polar Express while learning about friendship, bravery, and the spirit of Christmas.
Oh, and this was directed by Robert Zemeckis and written by Chris Van Allberg and Robert Zemeckis and William Broyles Jr. And this is starring Tom Hanks, who plays or voices the hero boy, the father, the conductor, the hobo, Scrooge, and Santa Claus. And then we have Leslie Zemeckis, who is Sister Sarah / the mother. We have Josh Hutcherson. Let me try that again. Josh Hutcherson as Hero Boy, Eddie Deason and Jimmy Pinchak as the Know-It-All. So some of these are doing the voice, some are doing the motion capture here.
Okay.
We have Nona Gray and Chantel Valdivieso as Hero Girl. Peter Scolari and Hayden McFarlane, who are doing the voiceover and motion caption work for Billy or the Lonely Boy. We have Chris Coppola and Connor Mathis as the Toothless Boy, and Michael Jeter as Smokey.
Okay. And then from the box office and critics reception, 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, 56-64 split on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.5 out of 10 on Google reviews, with 85% of Google users liking this movie. All in all, brought in 286 million worldwide. That was 23.3 million coming in its opening weekend and 162.7 million domestically. And this was all made on a $165 million budget. So from a financial standpoint, this was a success.
I would think so. Yeah, I think this. I mean, it did much better than what I would have thought here. It made more money than, say, like the Marvels. You know,
Yeah.
So there's that. The score and tweet length review, I give this a 78, and this wasn't a rewatch for me. This was a first watch. It's not as bad as I expected, and the animation was mostly wonky when it was zoomed in on the face, or that was when it was at its worst. But it was a solid story with a little bit of spookiness. I don't know if you got a hint of that specifically from the conductor, but there was a little bit of spookiness through there, but just way too much Tom Hanks.
You thought that about the conductor was where the spookiness came from?
Yeah. Because like you don't really know what's going on. He's picking up kids in the middle of the night. Like you don't really know what his deal is, so you're kind of viewing it through the eyes of Hero Boy, the main character there. But he's also like kind of angry through it all. Like you're kind of waiting for him to be like kind of snap, but it never really happens.
That's more okay. That's the part that I'm like the his demeanor is odd. I agree. But we'll talk about that more in a second. I gave this a slightly lower score than you, 70 out of 100. This was a rewatch for me. More heart and a better story than I remember, but I still don't care much for it.
Mm-hmm. And I am one of those really stuck up nose in the air types who are going to tell you that the book was way better than the movie. You got to read the book.
Everybody knows that listens to the show. That's exactly how you are all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's nice. I think it's nice to do it, particularly for a children's book. I feel like there's a real air to it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't read this 30-page picture book? You've got to read it.
It's kind of remarkable when you think about it. You can make a full, fledged motion picture out of a 30-page picture book.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the Dr. Seuss books are kind of like that too, right? It's
That's
like,
true.
how do you do that, right?
That's very true. Yeah, got to add a lot.
Yeah, you got to not a lot of meat on those bones there.
Nope.
So speaking of the book, did you read this book as a child, and did you like it?
So I think my teacher read it to us in school. I think that was the normal way that most kids were introduced to it. Maybe
I forget how it was introduced to her. That probably sounds right though.
Yeah,
and then you buy it at a Scholastic book fair.
Yeah, I didn't do that because I did not care for a Polar Express. I never was a fan of it. I think I've softened up on it a little bit now, but I just never, as a kid, never liked it. Everybody loved it, and I was always the only one that was like, okay.
You are Hero Boy. You need to take a ride on the Polar Express and get some belief back in you.
Hey, I believe in shit. I just don't believe this is
not in this book, not in the success of this story. But why don't you like it though? I feel like you said this before and I've asked you
Mm.
why, but
So
I can't recall because I have
I
a
don't
bad
think
memory.
I've actually explained it on here. In fairness to you, so a couple things. One, I never, if I remember correctly, the book was a first person narration from the
Hmm.
kid, right, but it was like the adult version of the kid, or at least it's how I'm like to remember it from.
Yep, I think you're right. Yep.
I don't think I cared for it much then. It's just something about the way the kid talked. Like again, I was a kid reading it. It's like this hit me the right way. And then and then the conductor was my biggest reason. I did not care for the conductor at all. And look, they were definitely from what I remember, accurate in their portrayal of the conductor in the movie compared to the book. But my
Hmm.
problem is like I didn't care for him in the book because he felt like a real like hard ass in like an odd way. But then he was always like nice at the end. Like I get you have to be a stickler and all this stuff because he's trying to be on time and Christmas
Hmm.
and all that stuff. But it just felt like you're dealing with kids, and I just don't know. I didn't get it. It was strange to me.
Yeah, like is the ticket really that important? You're stopping and picking everyone up like individually with purpose.
If your name's on the list, then what the fuck
Yeah,
do you need a
yeah,
ticket
yeah.
for? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I get the message at the end of it. Is that it? Is that the only reason you fucking need the ticket, really? Because
Hmm.
seems like it. So yeah, I never like that. Those are my biggest problems. Like that's just, and that's a me thing. It's not. I never thought the story was like poorly. Well, I guess I did say the story was not written because I didn't like the kid's narration, but I don't know. The plot was fine. I guess is what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, no, I read this book as a child and I did like the book. This was much like our movie rewatch nowadays. This was in our Christmas book rereading
Mhm.
every time. So, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Twas the Night Before Christmas, Polar Express. These were some of the books that we left around on the coffee tables in the living room or something like that. They were always just kind of out there on display during the Christmas time. So you can just kind of pick it up and flick through it real quick. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. And yes, I did read it. So yeah, yes and yes.
Cover to cover. Look at you.
Absolutely. Do you remember when this movie came out and what were your thoughts or expectations for it at the time?
I absolutely remember this coming out. I did not remember that it was 2004, so I was in 6th grade at the time. My expectations were, I don't want to see this movie. I have zero desire to see this movie. I'm like, why
Hmm.
are they making? How are they making this into a movie? It's a 30-page picture book. So I was like, I don't care. But then my parents were like, oh, it's a Christmas movie. So 6th grade, I'm like 12 years old. So it's kind of like I don't have much say in that. And then my brother's in 3rd grade at the time because he's 3 years younger than me. So it's
Yep.
like I don't know if he wanted to see it or if my parents thought he'd want to see it and they thought I might enjoy it. I don't know. But again, I fully admit, like, I love Christmas movies by and large. I appreciate all of them, like the majority of them. This is one that's like, I just weirdly don't like.
Yeah, I was. I didn't see it. So when it first came out there, but I do remember this movie, and I remember when it was first announced. I was excited for it because I love the book. But I had the same questions that you had. Like, this is a pretty short book. Like, how are they going to make a movie out of this? You got Zemeckis and Hanks attached to it, so that's got the Forrest Gump love, team right there, so that you can kind of, all right, we can get some success there. I'm kind of excited about it. And this was also right around the time that Harry Potter either came out or was announced. So that first one that they were redoing the whole book series into movies. So I was like, okay, this seems pretty cool here. I got my favorite childhood book series along with one of my favorite childhood Christmas books coming out. That's kind of exciting. But the trailers and animation threw me off.
Yeah.
When you said you're in 6th grade, I was probably a sophomore, junior in high school at that point in time. So at that point, then it's like, yeah, that's not really cool to go see the Polar Express. I was too busy trying to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Course.
didn't
I
really
probably
work out.
honestly, I probably was not too far off from that too. But the animation, I will say that even at that age, that shit jumped out at me. It's like, the fuck is this shit?
Hmm. But I remember being excited about it again with the Harry Potter stuff. I was like, okay, so they're bringing like a lot of these childhood books that I loved to life here. So that's exciting to me.
That's where it all began, Wes.
But did you like this movie? Enough about the book. Let's get into the visuals here. Did you like
So
the movie?
it's definitely better than I remembered, and I definitely didn't remember a lot from the movie from when I watched it years and years ago. Because I
Hmm.
swear, I think I only watched it when it was in theaters, and then never again. Um, but yeah, I still like don't. love it that much. I again, the conductor is what bothers me the most. But there's like you mentioned how there's a lot of heart in this. There definitely, I agree with that. I felt that more this time around. And there was a character who I think in the past I also didn't necessarily care for a whole heck of a lot, but now I was able to attach myself to a character a little bit more in this story. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah. This was more than I expected to. I thought this was going to be a full-on Festivus episode where we just kind of
Yeah,
air out all of our grievances here. So I was pleasantly surprised on that front, but I didn't love it. I'm not
yeah,
sure if this breaks into the Christmas rotation for me next year. Of course, everything kind of runs through Vivian now, so
yeah.
it's all kind of dependent on her moving forward there. But
I
I,
agree though about the Festivus bit. I thought that this was going to be like full fledged
yeah,
episode like that for us.
no, but we both said it. This movie's got some feel good. It's got some heart into it. So I was happy with it, but I didn't love the movie.
Hmm.
Um, where did this movie go wrong, and why do we start with the animation?
Because it's the number one thing. And honest to God, I mean, so for me, I gave this a 70. Again, I don't care for the story a whole heck of a lot. So like, there's definitely a lot of points deducted there, but there has to at least be 10 points that I'm taking off here for the animation on this. And I know it's 04, but I remember as a kid thinking, I feel like this is on the level of some video games. That shouldn't be happening when we're talking about movies. Again, I wasn't this like brilliant kid. It seemed that obvious to me, and that says a lot.
Yes, I agree. This was actually spoofed in, if you may remember, Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Oh, you're
They're
right.
they make so it's like something about like the forgotten toys or the forgotten characters or something at the Comic Con, and it's referring to the Uncanny Valley, which is like I'm probably screwing this up. Someone can correct us here, but it's like graphics get so good and then they don't. You can only get them so close to looking lifelike before they start looking like soulless.
Mm.
Which is the Uncanny Valley, which is the animation there. So there was some joke that the Rescue Rangers made in reference to that.
I gotta rewatch that. That was fun.
But what was interesting is when I was reading the Wikipedia page for the movie, it was Tom Hanks wanted to do this completely. Like he was the one who got this movie commissioned, pretty much.
Oh.
And then he brings on Zemeckis there. Obviously, they did another movie together. A Castaway was the other movie that they
Oh,
did together. So
little ditty.
it's a good working team, good working relationship there. But Hanks wanted to do a live action movie, and Zemeckis was like, no, there's no way that we would be able to do this to what we want to do without it being like $1 billion. And what it ended up being 166 million or something like that for the animation. So that's why they went to do that. And I think at the time this was supposed to be kind of cutting edge stuff, maybe too cutting edge because it was
Maybe.
not fully done yet. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Do you think if this was live action, would this be better, or does it lose some of like the book feel or the heart of it?
I was gonna ask you like where you stand on it too. So
Well, it
trying.
solves the problem of too much Hanks.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
very true. I think objectively, it would have done better. But would it have done enough that it would have justified how much that may have cost? Because I'm assuming it would have been more expensive than what it turned out to be. But I don't know. It's back in the day. Maybe this was so expensive because it was animation. I don't know. You said it would have been $1 billion, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe.
That's just what they said. That's what
Yeah.
Zemeckis said. But this is around the time of Lord of the Rings too, right? Is it 2000,
Yeah.
early 2000s?
I think maybe. I'd be curious to see them do that. I wouldn't be stunned if they went and tried to do that. I mean, I feel like it was that beloved of a book that you could still make that attempt and maybe make out okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe you lose some of that like enchantedness that kind of comes along with the
Sure.
story. If there's something kind of magical about the animation, even bad animation like this, that makes
Yeah.
it feel like, I don't know, like a little bit more of like a kid's story. But
100%. Yeah, like the train stuff, I mean, is a big one. But
mhm.
I think too, like now that we're talking about it, it's interesting where we see all these different like remakes or reboots or whatever you want to call it, or extensions of stories. If sometimes I get it where we get it, like extensions, I kind of get. But when we talk about remakes, like this is like you said, this is a beloved book. Like objectively, people really like this, and
Mhm.
like we're of like it's a book that I would think now people of our age, as you're having kids and everything, at some point down the line, you'd want to introduce your kids
For
to
sure.
this book.
Hmm.
And then they would probably want to see this movie if it was halfway decent. Why wouldn't this be a candidate to be remade versus like Harry Potter again, where they knocked it out of the park?
That's a good point. They know they'll make money off Harry Potter. That's the
This,
reason why, right? Yeah, I know.
yep,
I'm with you though. I think they should do something else with this and make it so this doesn't give us the bad taste in our mouth.
yeah,
Take another crack at it.
yeah.
How about some nice things here? What was the most rewatchable scene to you?
So I actually was stunned by this. I got a little like I welled up a little bit from the When Christmas Comes to Town song. I felt so
Mm,
bad for the little kid who was the like the straggler, I guess, for lack of a
Christmas
better
never
term.
really works out for me.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
like his singing there, like it was good. Like him and the little girl, like
Yep.
they were great. That was tough. That was a tough moment for me. Like so, like rewatchable is a weird way to put it, but that was definitely the one that, without question, stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, the first one for me was the hot cocoa musical scene there with Hanks running and you got to drink it hot and everything like that. I think that's good stuff there. I think that was what kind of got my attention, like kind of really roped me in and got me away from my phone. I'd kind of be like
Mm,
looking at my phone, looking up, and then that one kind of sucked me in there. The other one is the roller coaster tracks on the ice. I thought that
yeah.
was great, but also leading into that you have the scene of the ticket that's flying out of Hero Boy's hands. That's the girls that he's trying to get back to, but he loses, and then it goes through the wolves, and then goes down the hill and over the ice, and then gets stuck, and it goes on this whole journey, and it just ends up coming right back to him. I thought that was a really cool scene. Again, if you do that in live action, I think that's a little bit tougher to do. Obviously, it wouldn't be live action; it would be some sort of CGI. But I think that
Yeah.
was one of the better points of the animation there.
Yeah, I do think that the stuff with the hobo was
Mhm,
interesting in general,
mhm.
and but the and then
Also
like
kinda spooky.
yes, that was the when you said spooky, that's what I thought you were talking about. That's where I was like kind of like surprised when you brought up like but yeah, but that's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
And then the roller coaster on the tracks. I agree. Like there are things there where it's like if you tried to CGI this, it could look really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because like where we just saw it in what's the Mission Impossible, right? We saw all the train stuff with like Haley Atwell and Tom Cruise.
Mhm, mhm.
That's like they did a really good job there, but that's not the same kind of like zany craziness you have in this.
Right, right,
Can't do
right.
it.
No, absolutely. And even going back to that ticket scene, I remember when they go underneath the train and you see the hobo's face for the first time,
Yeah.
it just flashes right across and be like, wait, what the hell is that? That's the hobo? And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. And then the other one for me too was the when the star was falling, when like they had the kids in they were in Santa's like bag with all the gifts and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then the elves were kind of all flying around. The elves did like I thought they did a good job there. Again, something that was probably more doable
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
live action than the other stuff, but still that would be kind of challenging, I would think.
The elves are also spooky.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, we talked about the faces and how like things kind of get wonky in the face as you zoom in a little bit more. But those elf faces are so like distinctive that they just really catch you. It didn't work for me.
Mhm.
What else here? What else? Anything else?
For most rewatchable scene, no, I'm covered.
Okay, I think we got that there. What do you think will age the best from this movie?
Uh, what has so far for me was the Lonely Kid because again, he's someone who
Hmm.
I really didn't care a whole heck of a lot about. I think like again, where we talk about where I've said before that I don't care for this story in general. I think the story like in general is like this ages well still as a kids movie. I don't think it's great
Hmm.
for like people who love
Oh,
the book or
sure.
adults, but it's still good as a kids movie.
Yeah, I agree. Here's a question. This is kind of like what aged the best here. Do we think Hero Boy is both the hobo and the conductor, where Tom Hanks is voicing all of those characters as well as the narrator who is Hero Boy?
Uh Wait a minute, Tom Hanks didn't do the kid's voice, though. He did the kid growing up as the narrator, right?
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
him though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Wow. You just went like,
So I'm wondering if this is like a duality of man. Like that's like him from a past life at like almost like Ghost of Christmas Past type thing as the hobo. If he stopped believing and lost all his belief, he's just a hobo trying to get back and try to reclaim his belief and love of Santa and maybe a little bit of that childhood spark. But
I
on
don't
the
know.
other hand is the conductor who still maintains that and brings that belief to other children.
I don't know about the hobo side of it. That makes sense. Like from
Mhm.
Hanks being all the voices, that makes sense. From a writing standpoint, I'm not certain. But like when you say that, like the kid and the conductor, I totally see that. That totally makes sense. That's a great call,
I
actually.
could
I get
I could see that
the
there. I never
way
really
he
thought about that before. It just kind of
the,
washed over me.
the way he talks to the kid versus everybody else.
Right.
There's like different level of like discipline and frustration and all of that. So it's kind of yeah. I think it's a really good call. Could be the case.
It's interesting. Maybe even the hobo is like an interstellar type of scene where he's trying to reach back and guide his former self, his younger self, into the right direction to not end up like him.
It would make up for the fact that Tom Hanks' voice sounds so like we can get to
Well, it
that in
was
a
funny.
second.
I'm watching it with Jules, and like I'm like, hey, is that Tom Hanks' voice? Is that Tom Hanks' voice again? Is that Tom Hanks' voice again? And it's just like every time she's like, yeah, I think it is. I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, the I want to save that for another category before we
Mm.
get into. Is there anything else that aged the best for you?
No, I don't think so. Again, there wasn't a whole lot to write home about this. Although, think about the North Pole. That's a pretty big city. Yeah, that's a huge area. And I know you see all the elves in the background there as they're leaving, and it's like the whole area fills up right on as
Mhm.
Santa leaves to go deliver the presents. But is that that was a big industrious city. I'm not sure if that aged the best. That might be what aged the worst for me.
Ooh,
I'm not sure if I want like a city like feel for the North Pole.
interesting. You're more a fan of like log cabins and everything.
Maybe a log cabin, or maybe even like a northern European style of
Mhm,
housing. You know what I mean? That's like
mhm.
kind of an open green field. Like obviously green wouldn't work, but in a snowy field with like picturesque waterfalls and things like that.
So this is hashtag not Wes's North Pole is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it's not what I'm picturing in my mind.
Interesting. Okay, duly noted.
It
Well,
feels industrial. It feels like a factory warehouse.
you have drawn a line in the sand.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What do you think of the North Pole when?
Well, I will say I thought that of all of the graphic stuff that like was done well, like the train stuff was done well. I think that was probably the next thing that was done well. Probably not how I envisioned the North Pole. I mean, probably more like Buddy in Elf, like that, like his North Pole. That's probably my
Okay.
North Pole. Yeah,
We were just watching that the other day. There, getting the narwhal up there.
nice.
Good
Yeah,
luck
got
finding your dad, buddy.
it.
What do you think will age the worst from this movie?
um, so we're of a similar mind in a few of these different things. I mean, it's the animation, and then we've kind of beaten that horse dead
Yep.
plenty. But then the Tom Hanks thing we started to touch on. So my big thing here is like it's not just that it's not that it's all just Tom Hanks. Like that we know it's Tom Hanks. Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's one thing like what's it in Invincible, right? We got Jason Mantzoukas who's voicing
Hmm.
Explode. Okay, like I know like Goo might go and criticize that because Goo cares like that's something that's important to him with animated shows and movies. Fine. For
But
me,
he's also obsessed with Jason Mantzoukas too. He listens to a podcast that he does all the time, so he knows the voice. You know what I mean?
right.
So it's like much like we are Eric. Everyone's familiar with Tom Hanks's voice.
Right. But my point is like if you want to be critical of that because he just sounds like himself, that's fine. But to me, or actually no, Omni Man is the one. Why am I blanking on? It's the guy who plays J. Jonah Jameson who
Oh,
plays
Simmons, J.K.
yeah,
Simmons.
J.K.
Yeah.
Simmons. Like whoever you want to be, whoever it is, like it's somebody that we're familiar with. You want to be critical of that, fine. To me, it generally doesn't bother me a whole heck of a lot. But in this case, where he's voicing. How many did you list off? Like 5 people: the
Yeah.
narrator, the conductor, the hobo, Santa Claus, and then Scrooge was kind of confusing. Like because,
Mhm.
but it's like the hobo is the great. Actually, no, Santa Claus was the greatest deviation by him. That was probably his most like different from him voice, but it was still like this is Tom Hanks
You
again.
can tell, yeah.
What?
The laugh, the ho 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 gave it away. You can just
Yeah,
tell it's Hanks, like
yeah. It's just what are you doing, man? Like I did not think that was that was kind of that was bothersome for sure.
yeah, no, I agree, and we're aligned there. But your last note here is this is where we start to stray.
I hated that know-it-all kid, man. He stunk. My God, he's like such an unbearable little twerp.
Oh yeah, I see. I thought he was very lovable, albeit I get it, annoying and definitely taxing on your patience. To
Yeah.
be stuck in a car or a long drive, a long ride in a confined space with him over a period of time. That's not high on my list of things I want to do.
So no
But
one
he's
else.
funny. He's got a lot of character. No
I
one
told
else really has that much character.
100%. No one else has as much character as him. I agree with you. But I think I just don't find like I get how you find him funny. I can see that. It did not work for me. And the other thing is too, it's not just like he's a know-it-all. Like know-it-alls can be kind of like whatever, sure. But he's like a little rat bastard too. Like he's like, I was just following them. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to get my gifts too. Oh, like, oh, pick me, pick me. It's like, shut up. Like I'm sure like there's like a story to be told, like why he's like that. But still, it was like, oh my God, this kid just
Well,
doesn't stop.
my vibe was he was very clearly autistic. That was,
Oh,
the obsessing with the trains and knowing all the model trains. That was the first sign there. And again, being the know-it-all answers, and then like not accepting, not exactly accepting other people's answers. Like no, I'm right, you're wrong, and then they kind of go forward with this. So that was kind of my thought of it. So I thought he was a high functioning autistic kid.
okay. That mean that would change a lot for me for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that was
yeah.
like a big
He
difference.
didn't age so badly now, did he, Nick?
No, that would change it completely. That's for damn sure.
But yeah, so that was kind of my vibe. Which coming into it, once I figured that out, once that thought entered my mind, I was like, all right, this kid's awesome.
Yeah, well, in that case, it changed. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
still didn't do anything for me, but I don't feel as
Mm.
strongly as I do anymore now.
Well, this goes right into the best performance by a side character. Know it all. That was it for me. You have a great option though that I overlooked. The hobo is probably too into it as but if I had to do a pecking order, it's the knowing all and then the know it all and then the hobo.
Yeah, Hobo was a good one. I tend to agree with you that he would be in this conversation. But for me, it was the train engineers. Those
Yes.
guys were very goofy. They were perfect for like they were one of they may be my second favorite thing about this movie. Yeah, they're probably my second favorite thing, like thing about the whole movie. And they're just
Hmm.
like that whole train scene that again was well done. They kind of go in perfectly with the fluidity of the chaos that's ensuing throughout all of it. So they were great, the train engineers.
Yeah, and they also speak caribou too, which helped when the whole train tracks were blocked up.
Great call. That's a great point. Overlook that.
Yeah, and one last note about that whole train scene. They did a great job of building the suspense or the anxiety of it. I was very attached to what was going to happen with the ticket one, if that was going to if that was
Hmm.
all going to get wrapped up. But also just like sending the messages from the very front of the train back to the conductor's station there. It's like, all right, what's going to happen? There's a
Hmm.
light at the end here. What's going to happen at the end of this train tracks? I was very invested into that. So,
For a movie that I feel like is like super kidsy, like there are some kids movies that like Mario, like that's like a
mhm.
kids movie, but it's not like it's there's a level of it where it's for adults. This to me feels less so. I agree with you. For a movie of like in that category, I think they did a pretty good job building suspense there.
Absolutely. Who lost the movie, Nick?
I mean the animators.
Mm-hmm,
There's
mm-hmm.
no, I don't think there's any question. And then I think, look, I mean, you could say Hanks, but at the same time, when you look at the budget, like in how much they made, they made over 1.5, so it seems like it's a modest, win. But at the same time, it's like,
No, they were probably expecting this to be like $1 billion or whatever the equivalent was for 2004 to that. Like a
yeah,
huge blockbuster success.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm with you. The animators for sure. I think Hanks takes a hit. I also think the tandem of Hanks and Zemeckis, right? Because this is the third installment of that. So you get Forrest Gump, all-time movie, Castaway, Academy Award winner, I believe, at least nominated, if not winner as well. And then this is the third go around. And you know what they say, it's easy to beat a team once, twice, but 3 times, that third time around, they'll get you,
Especially when someone's calling offensive offsides.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. That's a topical one there, huh?
Oh wow!
How do you not check with the ref?
That's actually a very good point. That was fraud. That whole.
Well, there's video of it now. Right before we got on here, of him going up to the line. We're talking about Kadarius Toney of the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, this has a lot to do with the Polar Express, but nevertheless, there's sideline footage of him breaking the huddle, going up to the line of scrimmage, and immediately looking over to the referee, kind of giving him a thumbs up, looking for the confirmation. But he puts his head down immediately after that and then gets set. So typically what you should do is you get set and then you look over to the referee, hey, I'm good. And then you look back for it and wait for the ball to be hiked. So he never gets the confirmation if he's good or not, or if the ref tells him to back up. His head is back down at the ball waiting for it to be snapped at that point. So there was a clear miscommunication there. But ticky-tack call, but that's an egregious offsides.
Wild.
He was very much offsides.
This is a wild story.
Yeah. Oh, but I also do love Mahomes, being a little crybear baby about everything too. All these people want to compare him to Brady,
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here, man. Come on. I know he's won 2. I mean, he's done very well for himself. But again, at the end of it all, he can win even one more than Brady. It'd be fine. You lost to Brady when you faced him in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
But he was done. True. I mean, I know he was still a beast, but I mean, he's well past his prime when you faced him.
That's good. And now we'll see if he can win on the road. So, that's
on
the road in the playoffs, I should say. I believe it was Jay-Z who said, you can pay for school, but you can't buy class.
Ooh.
And that's the difference when we're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Tom Brady just has the class.
That's a good line.
He's never going up to Josh Allen and say, this is a bullshit fucking game, or whatever. After that,
that's the crazy. That may be the craziest thing for me and all this. I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sorry. You could be
what did Josh Allen do?
Yeah, you could be
best. What the fuck, man?
You could be best buds with Josh Allen. I'm sorry. I'm not complaining to oppose the guy who's on the opposite side of me. When he's got especially when it's about one call. If it's that game was called terribly, okay, maybe. But it's one call, and you're gonna lose. You're gonna complain to the guy you just lost to, who's the opposite of you on the other side. It's just such an odd choice to do it right away. I don't. It's just gross.
And then him being this may have cost Kelsey's Hall of Fame career, or whatever he said to that effect. It's all right, you're laying it on pretty thick.
I understand being upset, and I even understand voicing frustration about refs. We've seen it in the NBA. It happens more than anybody anywhere else, I should say. And Brady used to work over refs too. He would chirp them big time.
Absolutely,
but this is different.
No, it's doing it. It's within the confines of the game, right? So he's doing it to their face at the moment, not with a bunch of mics in their face after.
Yes,
after the fact,
Yes, and then in the NBA, it's it's a practice that's been around forever. So it's just kind of move on. It's just whatever. It's part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's completely bullshit. But I do agree that the refs insert themselves way too much into it. But nevertheless, completely off the rails. Let's get back on track for this train movie here. Who lost the movie? Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Motion capture animation.
Tom
Hanks. The Hanks Zemeckis combo. Anyone else? Do we miss anyone else? No.
Nope. I'm good.
Kadarius Toney. Also.
Hey, Travis Kelce in his Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. But I do respect that was a nice lateral. I would like to see more lateraling in football.
Ooh, Okay, I'd get behind
You
it.
know, get a little rugby in there. You know.
Why not? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Mix it up. Let's get nuts.
Yeah. Who won the movie, Nick? Who won the movie?
So you have two options, and I think one of them is very very good call. But for me, I'm gonna go with the lonely kid. Obviously, from
Mm.
a story standpoint, he's gone through so much. But for me, I just like that was the kid who I got attached to in this movie, and not because him and I necessarily have similar life experience. Far from it. I felt so bad for this kid, and he felt I don't know why, but he felt so real to me more
Mm.
as much more than anybody in this movie.
Doesn't really say a whole lot. And
No,
he's from the ghetto, because the know-it-all kid's like, oh, we're on the other side of the tracks now. We're almost on our way.
that's right. He
And
does
so
say that.
you know what that means when someone lives on the other side of the tracks, right?
That's actually a good call. Yeah. But
House looks a little dilapidated. It's kind of like in a rural part of town on the outskirts there. And
mhm.
he just says over and over again, right? Christmas never really just works out for me,
Yeah, and
which
it's
is the
like
worst part.
right after where we saw the hero kid, he goes and like decides I'm not going to get on the train. Then last minute he's able to get on. This
Hmm.
kid just waited a little bit too long, and he almost he missed it. Like if it wasn't for the hero boy, he would have completely missed it. It's like gosh,
Hmm.
like I'm talking about now. I'm getting like I'm kind of stunned about how I feel, like how I'm attached to the kid. Like I'm getting like chills, like talking about how I feel so bad for this kid. I don't
Is
know.
this some repressed memories that are coming out now?
I no, I would be it would be absolutely absurd if I tried to say that I had a similar upbringing or experience as this kid.
He does win because not only does he get Santa come to his house, right?
Mhm.
First things first. He's the first one dropped off on the train. And he got his presents right away. But he also has friends, and that's the thing that he
Yeah.
kind of learns, and what the conductor kind of punches on his ticket there. So his thing comes full circle, and that's probably the most rewarding one, right?
Yeah.
The hero girl becomes a leader because she learns to trust in herself. That comes up a couple times when hero boy's like, "Are you sure?"
Yep.
She's not sure if it's the brake or whatever the lever is to stop the train. And
Mhm.
then she's like, "No, no, no, I am sure. Follow me. This is the way to do it." So she's got her leader thing. And then the hero boy just believes in Santa again. But the most satisfying one is the lonely boy. His story comes full circle there. So I agree with you. But also the book.
Yeah.
Maybe we talk so often. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of Harry Potter fans. Dare I say, maybe even more, who never read the books but only watched the movies.
I'd say that's mm, I'd
And I
actually
don't think
love
that
to
would
know.
happen for this.
Uh, you don't think that would happen for this?
No, 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 no. I think more people would love the book
Oh,
than who
oh,
just watched the movie.
sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's probably right. Yeah, the Harry Potter one's an interesting one. I think that would probably be the I you know what I feel like that is about to is Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings people like
Hmm.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who love Lord of the Rings books, but it's like Harry Potter is a much easier read than Lord of the Rings. Like I love Lord
For sure, for
just
sure. But
yeah.
they're both dense. They're
Yes.
long reads.
Yes, but like Tolkien wrote it, so long ago and talked to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's for different audiences, right? That's more of like
that too.
a younger adult or adult audience, and then Harry Potter's obviously, more of a kid's book there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I agree with you completely. I would say the Lord of the Rings is probably in that same
Mhm.
realm.
Yep. Because they have to bring them up when you bring up Harry Potter, as everybody knows on this show.
Sure. Well,
But
they go hand in hand. They're forever tied to one another. If it's magic and bird there. Whether you for better or for worse.
absolutely. But I agree with you on the book. I think this is like I hope that this led to more purchases of the book, like
I'm
one would
sure.
think that usually tends to happen. And then the other thing is like this book's getting options. So the writer, I don't know who it actually is, probably got a lot of money out of this, which is great.
I would hope so. Yeah.
But in the end, where it wins is like the book. Like, people probably like the book more than they like the movie, like you said, like yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a quicker read. It's quicker than the book or than the movie. So that kind of has that advantage going for it. But I'm sure also the book or the movie inspired a reprint of the book too. Not even
Yeah.
just like more sales to go up, but they do that like inspired from the movie, and maybe the animation looks similar to what the
Yes.
movie looked like instead of whatever the illustrations were in the book.
I feel like I saw that back in the day for sure. For sure, feel like that happened.
I feel like they did the same thing for like the Michael Crichton Jurassic Park movies, right? I remember the Jurassic Park book was all black and white. It was all black book cover with a white T-Rex silhouette dinosaur bone skeleton.
Like
That's
the
the word I'm
logo
looking
we
for.
know
Skeleton.
now for Jurassic Park?
No, no, it wasn't. It was something. It was just all black with a white skeleton side profile without like the red
Right, but
lettering of Jurassic Park.
I meant, was it the same profile though? It was like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a T-Rex, right? It was the same
okay.
T-Rex profile, but like everything around it, there's like
Sure. Yep.
the circle around it, and then you got the letters that kind of look like a ribbon banner
All
at the
different.
bottom for the title. All of that just ended up getting reworked on a book title because that's all anyone sees. So on the flap
Yeah.
of the book, you're like, oh, this is Jurassic Park now. Okay,
Yep.
so
100%.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, the Lord of the Rings books that I actually owned because I was a kid when the movies came out all had like the characters like from the actors. I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Frodo, Saruman, and Aragorn. Harry Potter though, I didn't have that. I don't know if they did that with Harry Potter.
I don't think so either. Again, but those were so popular and they're so close together too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Although I
Interesting.
wonder if in paperback if they did that, I wouldn't be surprised. But if
Yeah.
if your parents were worth anything, they got you the hardcover books with the flap book flap on it.
I just remember my hardcovers. My parents are always like, "You want to try and take care of, take care of your shit in general." But like, they were like, "Don't, take care of the sleeve or whatever you call it on that goes
Mm-hmm.
on the hardcovers." And I would not carry my book around. Like if I brought it to school and stuff, I would not have the sleeve on it. I go to try and protect that.
Oh, you would leave it at home, maybe put it in a Ziploc bag.
Yep. Or
Preservation.
sometimes my parents would even have me they put it like we would paper bag like hardcover books sometimes to try and keep them in good condition. Like you would
Oh,
like
like we do for like elementary school.
yeah, exactly. So we did have Harry Potter
Ah,
books sometimes too. Yeah.
very resourceful. The Friars, I like that. It's good
Apparently.
stuff.
I forget all this shit, but
I think the Friars are a winner here too. Let's throw them in there for the paperback books.
okay, I don't know about that.
I think that just about does it though, Nick. Any final thoughts before we give our CMM aggregate scores?
This is a movie that I wouldn't be opposed to watching again at Christmas time, but I'm not gonna go and push for it.
Yeah, if you got kids, I think this is a good movie to show your kids.
Mhm.
And to see and let them kind of set the barometer for whether this is a rewatch or not. But if you don't
I
have
agree.
kids, I don't think you need to put this in here.
I
That's
agree.
just me.
Mhm.
Nick gave it a 70. I gave it a 78. That's Polar Express. Available to watch on Max for those of you who are streaming at home there. That's a CMM aggregate score of 74 for those at home. So, I feel like, that's not bad grade. If I brought home a 74, depending on the subject, that might be acceptable. Math, science, that sort of thing. But it's not, it's not great either.
Yeah, you can make up for it elsewhere, and they did with Castaway and with Forrest Gump. So there you go.
They certainly did. Absolutely. There we go.